Hello, everyone. On the core class, this is week 5, where we will be discussing the Hermetic principle of polarity. We will be discussing the element of water and also witches' tools. But before so, I wanted to get into a little bit about what we talked about last week. I saw, and before that, we get into that. I saw that Matt was in the feeds. Come on over if you can. Love to have you. This is core class week 5, and we left off last class talking about what is good and evil in comparison to Mother Nature. Like, what's the whole thing? And in our core class chat room, the editor of the Green, one of the editors of Green Egg Magazine, Sam Dickens, he said this. He said, "Is it not evil to murder a child or to rape a virgin girl? Is there nothing that is not just wrong and evil? Perhaps a cosmic God pays no heed of it, but it is not an abomination in the eyes of all mortal humans." And since we have Amber with us, she also had something to say about the prospect of good and evil, as good and evil are two sides of the same coin, duality or polarity, which goes along what we're talking about today. The concept of good, evil and good, I believe, comes from the Christian background. I agree, Amber. I'm not sure if it was around the prehistoric times. I know Native Americans never threw their people away. When they did something that hurt someone else, they learned to rehabilitate them and still make them part of the community. I like that concept. Some people murder for reasons, and some people just murder. But animals also murder other animals for food, for protection, and safety. I think evil would be a selfish act, something that doesn't benefit anyone else, something that causes harm of some kind to anything, whether it be a person, an animal, an object. I think that bringing harm to something, if it isn't for survival or food or protection, could possibly be considered evil. I think war is evil. But on the other hand, it also protects us from others that want to take away our freedom. So there you go. Amber, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I was just no, I pretty much said what I had to say on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, though. In Mother Nature itself, for a survival mechanism, when something is taking another life, a murder in like the animal kingdom, even in the oceans, it's a murder, and it's good for the killer whale for supper that night, but it's not good for the fish. The fish is like, "Oh, you killed me, it's a murder," and the shark is kind of like, "Well, it's supper time, and I have to eat, right?" So I think good and evil in comparison to Mother Nature is a whole different ballgame. And it's a fascinating conversation to be had. Last week we were talking about the law of vibration, and as the universe is always vibrating and changing, so are we. When you move from one action to another, you change. When you learn the mistake of the past and apply it to the future, you change. The moment you breathe, we change. Therefore, if we don't want to change and we say, "We don't want to change, I hate change, I don't want to do change," well, stop breathing. That's how the law of vibration works. It works from changing from one condition to another. And I think that as wise ones of humanity, we have to embrace change. It's the only constant in the world. The only constant is change, and everything is in a perpetual state of motion. The universe is constantly expanding. Yeah, we have to take the lessons from experience, the actions to correct the mistakes, which literally means to change. Thoughts. Your thoughts have vibrations as well, and they're positive or negative. And the
Can I,
guys,
can
yeah,
I say something?
absolutely.
Just for a second. I don't know if you know this or not, but everything has a sound. Each plant has its own music. Each planet has its own music. Everything has a sound, which is vibration.
Mm-hmm. That where did you hear that?
Because I've read articles where they have used special equipment. Like I saw one that they put it on a mushroom, and you could hear the music from the mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it translates certain electrical pulses into sound.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it for the planets too, because in space they could hear the different sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely sounds reasonable that everything has a frequency or a sound. It definitely does, because everything is vibrating. Everything has a frequency. Even the stone you hold in your hand is making a sound, because those molecules and atoms and stuff are moving. They are moving, but we just can't see them. So yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I sure would. The Hermetic law of vibration means that everything vibrates. Nothing's standing still. Even the rock, obviously the tree, even even items that are like a desk or an ashtray or remote control. All of these things have vibrations. So yeah, principle of vibration, nothing rests. Everything's moving, everything's vibrating. And it almost seems it's scientific, that everything's vibrating. And especially if we are seeing this vibration as energy.
Yeah.
And as magic folks, we love to tap into things that are energy. Energy never dies. It just changes. Like the seasons of the year, the wheel of the year. When winter happens, everything dies. It's just changing. It's being reborn. And I think we got into reincarnation in one of the classes before, where we were talking about our belief systems, which seems to be a commonality within the pagan community, especially. But one thing I would like to stress is the element of everything is true in one sense, everything's false in one sense, yet everything is permissible. And that statement alone, I think, goes along the lines of the Hermetic principle of polarity. Everything is true in one sense, everything is false in one sense, yet everything is permissible. Like within polarity, which we'll get into, like the yin and yang sign, for an example. There's a piece of an opposite on the other side of the spectrum. And if it wasn't so, the opposites of the spectrum, it wouldn't exist. So it's almost like existence needs polarity, or it wouldn't exist. And I'm just kind of going out there on a limb here, as we discuss that. What do you think, Amber?
I definitely believe in polarity. I also like the term in duality. To
Right.
me, it's the same thing. But yeah. Well, most things that you see, like you said, have an opposite. Or maybe not an opposite, maybe just a degree on the same spectrum.
Well, I don't know. I think everything does have an opposite. I feel everything in existence has an opposite. Um, Without night, we wouldn't have day.
Right,
Without birth, we wouldn't have death.
right.
No summer, no winter. If we didn't have hot, we would. If we didn't, we need hot to have cold. You know,
Yeah,
we can't have silence if we don't have noise. So I think polarity is just one of those immutable truths that it's just something that is. And I really like the concept of immutable truths because it can't be argued. We can't have a debate about it. And I'm sure that many people have, throughout the centuries to try to debate those things. But immutable truths just seem to be, the rock of wisdom where there's just no arguments with it. The law of polarity, the Hermetic law, the Hermetic principle, it states that in the universe, on Earth, macrocosmically, microcosmically, everything has an opposite. Can you have your face in the light without having your back in the dark? You cannot. Everything has duality. And I like the concept of duality. And I think that a lot of pagans in the community and within our earth-based spirituality, duality is very important. With one of the commonalities that we talk about is the God and goddess, and we talk about the Lord and Lady, where it talks about duality, both sides. And I think that the equilibrium of the polarity is important to find the balance in it. A matriarch and a patriarch, these things happen, but I think that if you can find that balance within matriarch and patriarch situations, I think that's where the power is. I think that there's a lot of wisdom in polarity, in contemplation. Everything holds an opposing truth, all of which is true. We have love and we have hate. And we were talking about good and evil. We have good and we have what would be considered evil. Can you think of any elements of polarity?
Yeah. Quiet, loud,
Right.
meditative, stressed. There's a lot. There's a lot of different things that have polarity. And to be honest with you, I think it's easier to name the things that don't have polarity because I can't think of any. Can you?
No. Tragedy, comedy, justice, injustice, bravery and cowardness. And masculine, feminine, the polarity. I think those are just immutable truths that without one, the other one would not exist.
Yeah.
And well, if we're going to reach out to the Kybalion itself, which is a great text to discover Hermetic truths, it states that everything is dual, everything has a pole, everything has a pair of opposites. And it almost feels like everything, like and unlike, are the same. So in some ways, war and peace even though they're polarities, they're the same, it seems like. And it's like a paradox, because the other wouldn't exist without the other. They wouldn't exist without having that polarity. Yeah. We see polar opposites in other aspects of life, hot and cold. Yeah. I think that the Hermetic principle of polarity is kind of cut and dry. I don't think there's much really to discuss about the polarity at all. I think there's just something that is. But really what I would like to do is look at the concept of polarity and how can we apply it in our daily lives, or is it just a realization, or how can we apply it within our magics, within our creativity, within our creation.
Well, one way is to like use the god and goddess when you do magic. You can have that polarity. You can have other polarities as well,
Mm-hmm.
that would help bring more to magic.
Now, I'm not really I'm not adept in alchemy, but I feel like polarity has a lot to do with alchemy. You can't really change anything, but the transmusician is like, to understand the polarity. I feel like you can understand yourself. Yeah, definitely a principle not to overlook is the polarity. I want to move along into the element of water. Water. When you think of water, the element of water, Amber, what do you think of?
Fresh, new beginnings, peace, purity, emotions, dolphins.
Mm-hmm. I think it's soothing. I mean,
yeah,
when there's a rainstorm and it's trickling on like a tin roof or any roof, or like if you're camping and you're at a pagan festival and you're in a tent and you hear that raindrop hitting the tents, I mean, isn't that kind of relaxing? It's like it puts you in like it's like a meditative state almost. It's like puts you in a different place, and it's very relaxing.
Yeah, it is.
And water is, I mean, how much are we filled in water? Like the human body, how much water is like really in us?
I think it's like 70%.
Yeah, I know that it's up there. I don't know an exact number. I know that we're filled pretty to the top of water.
Yeah.
Water is refreshing. It gives life. It rises and it falls. Water is cleansing. It represents harmony. It can heal, can cleanse, it can calm us, especially with those raindrops hitting a tin roof or.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely, about water. And we know that water is, what direction is universally associated with water?
West.
West. Right. Do you know what season that water would be associated with?
That would be spring.
I'm going with the fall. Pretty sure.
Okay. I knew it was one of them, spring or fall.
and I think I think spring is, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think spring is fire. Somebody has a question here. It says, where does polarity stand when one is in the same space and time? Okay. Amber, how would you answer that? I'll let you take a crack at that one first.
I have no idea. I couldn't understand it. Can you read it again?
Sure. Where does polarity stand when one is in the same space and time? What does polarity stand? I wish that they would rephrase the question.
It doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
Right. Where does polarity stand when one is in the same space and time?
Same space of what? As what?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around the question either. I'd love to. If anybody could answer that question in the comments, that would be great. Where does polarity stand when one is in the same space and time? I'm lost for it. I'm lost for it. I really am. Lost for it. How about what colors are associated with the element of water?
Blue, green.
Mhm.
No, green is mostly earth. But you can associate green with water.
Yeah, I would say yeah. Green.
Blue and green. And well, of course, all the sea life would be water, mermaids. And you would have I don't know. I really think it's spring. I really do, Harold.
Really?
Yeah, because fire is summer. Summer is fire.
You know, you could be right. We're just going to have to cross check it later on. I think I'm feeling like spring is fire and that fall or autumn is water. But you know, there's a whole list of correspondences.
Yeah.
We could definitely figure that out in the chat rooms later on. How about magical tools?
Okay.
You
Like the chalice,
Yeah.
certain crystals, certain herbs.
Mhm.
Well, you could always have a statue of like a mermaid on your altar
Mhm.
or something like that. Feather is air. And let's see, feather is air. Fire is athame. Water's chalice.
Do you think the cauldron would be associated with water?
No, earth. The cauldron is the womb.
Okay.
That's earth.
Okay. How about zodiac signs associated with water?
Oh, now that I'm terrible at, Harold. I don't remember.
Where are my water signs at?
Pisces.
Yep, that's one of them.
Let's see. I think Sagittarius is a fire sign, isn't it?
Yes, Sagittarius, fire sign. Yep.
Fire. Okay, Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo are fire signs. Pisces and Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of the third one, Harold.
So let's move on and talk more about the element of earth and how we can get in tune with it, how we can feel it, how we can observe it or live it or connect to it. What are some ways that we can connect to the element of water?
Well, go to the beach, go in the ocean, Eat seafood. Um, any water sport. Go on a boat.
Hmm. Yeah.
Go on an island.
Right.
Take a shower.
Right. Ritual bath, shower,
Yeah.
maybe going out seashell hunting or
Yeah.
swimming, or
Standing in the rain.
how about the old, and this is real popular, within the community. It seems like everybody's talking about making sure your moon water's out during the full moon.
Right.
And water is associated with the moon a lot, as because, well, the moon, with the gravitational pulls and everything, makes water move like back and forth with the low tide and high tide and that thing. And I want to disagree with you on one thing when you said that water wasn't associated with the cauldron. Now we know that the cauldron is associated with the womb,
Yeah.
and the womb, it just seems like when dealing with the womb, I know that that taps into, and I'm not a woman at all, I'm just somebody that studies these things. The menstrual cycles are governed by the moon as well, where it's just the 28-day periods.
Yeah.
Is similar with the menstrual cycles. So I feel like the cauldron is associated with water. Water is connected to emotions and dreaming and the subconscious mind. I think that's associated with the moon, and I think water is the way to go with tapping into water energies when dealing with the moon emotionally. I think that's a good way to lean to.
Yeah. I don't know. The reason I thought the cauldron was Earth is because we burn things in it, and I always felt that it was also a way to ground by burning spell work and stuff in it. I don't know. I just always thought it was Earth.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I see your point.
Right. All right. Well, that's about all I have for class today, as I've been really busy in other endeavors. I hope to see you all back Wednesday. And if you're in the core class, to give a look at the element of Earth, take a look at the Hermetic principle of polarity as opposites, and one cannot exist without the other. And the best example I can give with that is a symbol that isn't as popular in the community now as it was 20 years ago, but it was more popular, I think, 20 years ago. The yin and yang symbol.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of Wiccans used to use the symbol a lot more, and not so much now.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good representation of the Hermetic principle of polarity. So, without any further ado, I'll see you on Wednesday at 6. Hopefully, take care, Amber. Take care to the core class, and blessings to all.
See you Wednesday.